Wassail, wassail, wassail. And good Yuletide to you. We have an opportunity to explore wassail and wassailing. What is wassail? Well, many see it rooted amongst the ancient Anglo-Saxon pagan past. It means be well, to your health. And I'm going to share with you some of the lore and traditions connected with wassail, the greeting, wassail, the toast, more about this in a bit, wassail, the song and the singing, and wassailing, the activity. No one really knows who started wassailing and who created the first wassail beverage. But over the years, across cultures and faith traditions, there have been a variety of different variations on this Yuletide and New Year beverage and greeting, ritual processions and activities. We have a theme for this year's Yule Festival, and it comes from a wassail song. We know it goes back at least to the mid-19th century, but it's quite likely that this song, the tune and the words, go back even further than that. Here we come a-wassailing among the leaves so green. Here we come a-wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. And God's bless you and send you a happy new year. And God send you a happy new year. Now, the verse that I just sang is number 209 in the Wild Folk Song Index. I added a variation to this, and indeed many of these old wassail songs have had lots of variations, things that have been in popular culture and sung with joy and exuberance over the years can change. I did the pagan version, so the Christmas time version has God singular, the pagan version has God's plural. Take your pick when you're singing that. And indeed, the idea of having cider, mulled spice cider, and it was alcoholic in the old days. But today I'm going to share with you what I call a universal apple cider, and you can add the alcohol as part of your making rather than starting with an alcoholic cider to begin with. Well, this is such a fabulous beverage and a tradition, and I'm really glad to be here to share some of this with you today. Now, when was wassail consumed? Well, I love this beverage and I've consumed it throughout the year, but I pretty much have it as what I call a Yuletide beverage, which means the day after American Thanksgiving until the first week in January is typically the Yuletide in our household, in our community. And there are a variety of different times within the Yuletide celebrations that have wassail connected with them. Now, what most people know wassail as is a new year, a new calendar year drinking song. And some people would be doing wassailing on January 1st, or some on Twelfth Night, also known as Befana Night, and that's January 5th. some on Epiphany, the 6th of January. And if you really go back in time, back into the 1700s, before 1752, when the calendar changed, it was January 17th. And some people keep that date to this day for their wassailing ceremonies and revelries. But winter solstice is part of the reason for the season. And another great time to wassail is part of Yule itself. And winter solstice weekend, here we are in 2020. And so we have an opportunity to keep alive this tradition and to take it into cyberspace as well as in inner space, in our imagination, in our ancestral memories, in our meditations and our celebrations. So there are two types of wassailing approaches. We have the house wassailing and the orchard wassailing. And these two traditions existed side by side, and over the generations, they have adapted and changed. Some of the songs are pretty much the same words that have been sung for several hundred years. Others have updated them. And one of the really fascinating things about wassailing and wassail is how enduring it is. It provides a continuity to the ancient past. Today, as part of our Circle Sanctuary Community Yule Festival 2020, we're doing a form of house wassailing. And house wassailing was something that was common in villages in the past. Wassailers would go door to door, singing songs and hitting up the residents of the homes they visited for beverage, food, money. This was an opportunity for charitable giving and sharing some of the abundance in society across social classes, across the diversity that existed in the past. Well, some people got quite dressed up as they went door to door. Some carried a wassail bowl with them as they went wassailing, and some went and had wassail within the homes they visited. Indeed, some carolers would go outside of a door and sing and be invited in to feast and drink with the host. Now, in some places, this was definitely a redistribution of wealth for a bit during the Yuletide season. And some of this actually harkens back to the Saturnalia celebrations in ancient Rome, where those who were serving and those who were rulers exchanged roles, and things were upended and turned into different forms. Well, wassailing was something that has continued to be with us, but by some different names. What we have, even in 21st century America and the UK and other parts of the world, we have door-to-door caroling in some places. Well, this is a pandemic year, so we got creative and we're having door-to-door in cyberspace. The idea is that it was a way of renewing bonds with one's neighbors. It was a way of having fun. It was a way of celebrating and bringing the joy, the love, the well-being of this sacred time of year into community to amplify it. through celebration. So that song that I sang the first verse to, Here We Come a Wassailing, is also known, Here We Come a Caroling. And while caroling today usually doesn't have a wassail bowl connected with it, unless people are really doing a historic reenactment, the caroling piece of joining voices and people of all sorts of vocal abilities, which is part of the fun piece. Yes, having some very highly trained professional voices doing wassailing songs, beautiful, but getting people from many different abilities and ways of attuning to the tune can also be a lot of fun. That song also became known as Here We Come a Christmasing, as it was part of the celebration of Christmas. And so not only do we have this song connected with the change in the calendar year, but the change in the solar year and the whole Christmas time, solstice time, what I prefer to call Yuletide, or the happy holidays time. There is another wassail song called the Gower Wassail. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Our cup it is white, and our ale it is brown. Our wassail is made of the good ale and cake, some nutmeg and ginger, the best we could bake. So that's another traditional wassail song. And this is one that was very much connected with the house wassailing, going door to door. Now, there's another song that's become part of the Circle Sanctuary Yuletide tradition. In addition to the community Yule, we've sung it there. And stay tuned for the caroling. I think you'll hear it there. But we have another event that we do every year. It's presently known as Longest Night. And in 2020, this is going to be tomorrow night, December 20th at 7 p.m. And that is Central Time. And we have it planned to live stream to the Circle Sanctuary YouTube channel. And if the tech works, we may also be going to the Circle Sanctuary Facebook page. We wish you a Merry Solstice. We wish you a Merry Solstice. We wish you a Merry Solstice and a Happy New Year. Well, there's some other verses to that song, and they really harken back to the wassailing times. Oh, bring us some figgy pudding. Oh, bring us some figgy pudding. Oh, bring us some figgy pudding and bring it right here. So essentially, the wassailers were not only singing to get some food, but some specific kinds of food. And what is a figgy pudding? Well, I'll leave that for a good cooking show, but essentially it had ingredients that not everybody was able to afford. So if one went to an affluent house and community there, chances are you could get a figgy pudding. And there are people still making figgy puddings to this day. But there's another verse in this song. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. So bring it right here. Well, that was definitely giving some emphasis to bring out the figgy pudding. It was all done in good fun for the most part. And it was such an amazing opportunity, not only to have some fun and to sing, but as I mentioned before, you might get invited into the house and then you have a big feast. So there's many different forms of the house-to-house wassailing. In some parts of England, there would be a different wassail song for a community. Now, many of the Wassail songs really come from the places where apples are grown, no surprise. And, and yet, wassailing has spread far and wide and continues to this day. So, the other type of wassailing is something that gives us the concept of toasting. Yes, you can toast this way, wassail. But a piece of toast dipped into wassail, and what are you going to do with that? You're going to give it to the apple tree that's the biggest and the best in the orchard as a way of encouraging it to be abundant and to bring on more apples the following autumn. So I'd like to share with you a bit about the orchard wassailing tradition. Here, farmers, farm hands, villagers would all gather together and process from orchard to orchard. Now, this was a countryside tradition because that's where the orchards are. And most of the time we're going into apple orchards, but in 21st century world, some people have expanded this tradition to wassail all sorts of fruit trees. Now, the group of people who are going to be doing the orchard wassailing typically has one or more leaders. In some traditions, it is the wassail queen and the wassail king, and they had particular parts that they would play. They would lead the procession, and once they arrived at an orchard, they would have everyone encircle the largest, the most mature, the best apple tree in the orchard. So in a way, that is the spirit tree. And this orchard wassailing truly shows its pagan origins. Two parts of the orchard wassailing tradition. One is wake up the apple trees and do blessing. Two, ward off negativity and any problematic spirits that could interfere with apple production. The people who would join in and who do this tradition to this day have wassailing drink and wassailing attitude, which is raucous and joyful. It is making some sounds as one approaches the apple orchard. So some people bang on pots and pans, some people fire guns into the air, or some other kind of noise makers. And sometimes Morris dancers would bring their Morris sticks and tap on the tree that would wake it up to receive the wassailing blessings of the humans gathered around. Now, the orchard wassailing traditions also vary from place to place. And during this pandemic year and during this Yuletide, I think a good way for you to have some firsthand experience with orchard wassailing is to actually go to YouTube and look at apple tree wassailing, and you'll see that there are some videos of wassailing rituals taking place in orchards. Sometimes the mummers are in a variety of colorful costumes, Morris dancers, mummers, playing out scenarios. There'd actually be theatrical productions in some. And And some are more simple. Now, some of the wassailing of orchards is done during daylight, but often they're done at night. So processing with candles and lanterns and torches, and often there would be a bonfire kindled to keep everyone warm, and great fun is had by all. So, what to do with an orchard wassailing? You have someone who's going to call to the spirit of the apple tree and help organize the raucous bunch. If there is a wassail queen, typically what happens is that the crowd will lift her up and carry her right up to the tree, have her dip the toast into some wassail, and then put it into the crook of the tree or tie it onto a branch. Now, right here in Wisconsin, a few New Years ago, I had the opportunity to go to neighbors who had a young orchard, and we were able to actually do that wassail toast tradition and encircle the largest of the trees. So I have taken part in an orchard wassailing, and I've taken part in some house-to-house wassailing, being on both ends. A number of years ago in Madison, I was at a Yuletide party thrown by some friends of mine, and they had carolers not only come to the door, but come right in and join our feasting. I think these traditions, while they're very old and in some ways quaint, they are wonderful to keep alive and to bring the joy of the season to us. Now, I have another wassail invocation, and this is part of a contemporary reenactment of an orchard wassail rite. Oh, apple tree, we wassail thee, and hope that thou will bear, for the Lord doth know where we shall be when apples come another year. So to bear well and to fruit well, merry let us be. Let everyone take off their hats and cry health to the old apple tree. Many different opportunities to learn about wassailing on the web. This morning, I took some time out and got to sample some of the wonderful diversity. There's wassailing not only in the UK, but Canada, in the US, and some other parts of the world. There was some wassailing making the news. I posted a link in the Circle Sanctuary Community Facebook page, my Selena Fox updates page, to some footage from 1979 in England where people were wassailing. And it was so amazing to be able to journey through time, more recent time in the past century, as well as back further in time. Well, what I'd like to do now is to show you a way to make wassail. I am going to share the Selena Fox version of wassail making. This is a universal wassail because what we are using is apple cider, fresh apple cider in the produce department that is not alcoholic. And that way, those who are in recovery from alcohol addiction can have some, and those under 18 can have some. And I'm going to pour some right into this crock pot. And what I like to do is get the apple cider and get not only what I think is going to be consumed at whatever event I'm bringing the wassail to, but to have plenty of extra. So my approach is to use a crock pot. This is my smaller wassail bowl crock pot. I have a much bigger one. And when I'm putting on a Yuletide party, which will be in our imaginations this year through this workshop, it has plenty of wassail for lots of people to come and get some things from. Now you want to warm it and get some good stirring device. The wooden spoon is one of my favorite cooking implements. To me, it not only helps stir, but it's a magic wand in motion. So as you put in your cider, stir it so the heat can go equally around it. Then you want to get the spices. Now, the 4 spices that I use, I have today all in powdered form. And when I'm making mass quantities of wassail, I have found that the powdered form is really preferable, especially if you get the powdered spice from a really good source, which I try to do, is that it's easier to dissolve and you can make the wassail quicker. And if you have had to replenish the bowl quite a bit, well, you can get it spiced up a bit more. So the very first batch that I make of wassail, I make sure I have plenty of spices in, because as the party is unfolding or the feast, I'll be replenishing apple cider into the bowl. Cinnamon, excellent ingredient. Now you can use cinnamon sticks, and in old traditional recipes, using the sticks was much more common. And I have some organic cinnamon I just got yesterday to try out. Now, some people will use a teaspoon. I tend to go for an abundance of spice because I not only enjoy the spices, but I will be adding to this spicy mixture fresh cider as it goes down. Now, you want to have the cider fairly warm to start out. And in addition to cinnamon, we have cloves. Now, some people prefer the actual whole cloves, and you can indeed put them in, or what some people like to do is actually have a piece of fruit and put the cloves, the whole cloves, in the fruit. Typically, it's an orange, or sometimes it is a lemon. But if you're going to use that technique and put it in the skin, make sure you wash the skin of the fruit, because whatever goes into the pot will be consumed. So I'm going to put in some cloves and stir that in. And each time I add a spice, love and joy goes into this wassail pot. Another favorite and traditional spice for wassail is allspice. And I'll put some more of that in here. Some people like to put in the whole allspice. And I'm doing the powdered variety. And I want to give thanks to my neighbors and Michelle for letting me and Dennis come, our two stay-at-home bubbles during this pandemic. We occasionally will join them because we all are practicing very safe ways. So I'm thankful to be here to not only get to have some Yuletide cheer and some to share some wassail with, but we have raw band here. Yay. So you can get the full experience. And one of my favorite ingredients doesn't always go into a wassail bowl, but I've been doing it for years, is nutmeg. So, and what are some other spices you might want to put in? Well, it depends on the recipe. There's tons of recipes for wassail. Some like coriander, ginger, um, cardamom. Those are all spices that too can go in. Orange peel, lemon peel. It's important to keep stirring when you're using the powder in particular. You want to get that spiciness evenly distributed. And what I really enjoy doing is putting actual apple into the wassail bowl. It not only gives it a decorative appearance, but it is traditional. Now, some will make wassail in more of an Elizabethan time period and actually add a whole lot of other ingredients. Eggs, for example, separating the whites from the yolks, beating the whites so they're fairly stiff, also getting the yolks processed separately and then moving them all together. That gives a big froth to your wassail. And some people call it the lamb's wool wassail. So that's some other ingredients. I have put not only apples in, but we harvest a lot of wild berries during the summertime. And I sometimes will add berries frozen and then let them reconstitute themselves into the wassail bowl. And that can be a lot of fun. Now, some people like to put all sorts of different alcohols into their wassail. Now, some people use sherry or brandy. Some may use wine or mead. Some people actually start their wassail with ale rather than cider. So it depends on the tradition and it depends on who's going to be consuming it as to what you have as options. So some additional things to consider. Who will be drinking it? How will you be serving it? How many people will be joining in at some point? When we have our Circle Sanctuary Community Yule, we have one of our larger crock pots, and we have cider that actually has come from apples that we've gotten from the land, combined with apples that have been donated by others at our autumn equinox gathering called Welcome Fall. And we not only get to consume the apple cider during the fall festival, but we always save some and freeze it so that we can have it for our wassail at our community Yule event. And I have a bit harvested from before that's in my freezer that I may bring out later this year. And we use apple cider at our Samhain gathering as well, but it's the main ingredient for our wassail celebration in at Yule time. And there we have somebody who actually is the wassail crock pot watcher. So as people are taking from the crock pot, when it starts getting down about a third, it's good to add some more cider. And because it's usually cold at this point, you want to serve it warm whenever possible. Now it's good to have some kind of a dipper. I have stainless steel ones. This is my plastic Wassail one, and you can tell it's gone through many Wassail bowls because it actually is stained. So if you are going to be doing a lot of work with Wassail, you may want to have a particular implement that will be your Wassail dipper. So you've made your Wassail, you've gotten in the ingredients in, and now what you're going to do is serve it. Now, some people make the Wassail and then they scoop out all this stuff. They'll get a strainer like this and just pull out the spices because you have that bit of powder in there, and not everybody is keen on that, but I really like the heartiness of having the spices in. But part of what I make available when I'm doing the Wassail at my house is to have one of these strainers so that for those who would prefer to have more of a clearer liquid, then it's a matter of dipping in and filling up the mug, or taking as much as you would like. And getting a group of people together around the Wassail bowl, getting everyone some in their mug or their chalice or whatever they're drinking, or their bead horn. Having everyone do the Wassail greeting, the Wassail toast to your health. Wassail, wassail, wassail. And one of the great things about wassailing and wassail, you can salute, you could do greetings for different people, different organizations. And clearly during this pandemic year, we need to be able to wish others well. One of our activities that we do every December also is transformed into a Cider event, and that's our Wreaths Across America ceremony. We went up, Dennis, my husband and I, we went up to our cemetery, Veterans Ridge at Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve, just as the sun was setting last night, and we put the wreaths on the graves of those who have served in the U.S. military as part of this Wreaths Across America program, which is nationwide. So I send wassail to the loved ones of those who not only are buried at Circle Cemetery, but in other public and private cemeteries. Wassail to the loved ones, and wassail to the Wreaths Across America program. And I wish to go wassail to Circle Sanctuary and to all the other organizations that are doing Yuletide in cyberspace this year. Wassail! And I want to wish well wishes to Reverend Moonfeather, who made it possible for us to wassail in cyberspace this year with this event. So wassail! And to all of our team who have been part of putting on this event, wassail! And to all of you watching live and through the miracles of cyberspace watching later, wassail! So what can you take from this wassail and wassailing workshop into your own Yuletide? First of all, as you can see, it's not that difficult to make wassail. You don't even need a crock pot. You can get an enamelware pan or stainless steel cookware. Usually best to have something that doesn't interfere with the taste of the cider, and heat it on the stove and get some spices and put them in. You don't even need tons of spices. Get a few cinnamon sticks and put them in. And the key ingredient, though, is putting that love and joy into the solution. So whether you are going to chant over it or you're going to stir it, cooking to help with prosperity. And I also invite you to consider creating your own kind of wassailing ceremony, meditation, and song. Learn one of the old ones or adapt it. Take some wassail off into your garden area. If you don't have apple trees, well, you can wassail your gardens and sing forth well wishes and appreciation for the plants that feed us. And I invite you to wassail those who are helping to fight this pandemic. So too, doctors, nurses, other healthcare workers, chaplains, first responders, essential workers, wassail, be well. And to all of those manifesting the various vaccines right now, the researchers that are testing some other ones out, as well as the delivery drivers and all of those that are getting the vaccines out to other people. Wassail! So I wish you a wonderful Yuletide, and may the spirit of the wassail continue to be with you, with us, now and into the ages to come. So you've made some wassail, you've served some wassail. What do you do with the extra? Well, what you do is get a container, let it cool down, and then there should be, I had a, somewhere around here, a funnel. So it disappeared for now. However, you can get a funnel, pour it in, and put it in your refrigerator. You can actually store it for, 4 or 5 days. It'll still be good. Or what you can do is you can freeze it and then thaw it out and use it again. So I am so glad that I've had an opportunity to be with you today. And a special shout out to Reverend Bob Paxton, who's making it possible for me to live stream via Zoom, via YouTube to all of you. I will be taking a look at comments in the chat later on today. So if you have any particular questions, you can put them there, or you can email me, Selena at circlesanctuary.org. I'm so thankful for all of you who have joined in, and I wish you a good Yule and safety, joy, love, and well wishes to you. Wassail!